everyone, here we are. That's a little
Wow, that was a little loud.
Here we are, myself and Anna with the Tipsy Realtors, season five.
Season 5.
And
Yeah.
today we are doing the cocktail called Good and Evil Cocktail, which is always fun. And we're going to talk about what side the realtor is actually on in the transaction, because we get a lot of this where people say, well, the realtor on the other side isn't being fair. It's not his job.
That's right. Yeah. So we're gonna be talking about how to behave yourself with the realtor,
And to know who you
obligations.
should, who you should be talking to, who you shouldn't be talking to, things you should say, things you shouldn't say. And I would say that actually that's the biggest thing with our clients, and I've had it happen lots of times, where they're like, well, I was just being nice. I'm like, he wasn't on your side, so being nice to a guy that's not on your side is not in your best interest.
That's right.
Okay, but let's start with the cocktail.
First, yes, start with like you got some giant goblets. Yeah.
So I thought I would be fun.
Okay.
And I got our big, huge fish bowls. These are like, I don't know how many ounces these fit. These are like when I'm
24?
I don't know. I just know that when I want to have like a drink, and not just a cocktail, but like a drink at home. So like,
it's been a tough day at work.
No, but when I'm like, when I sit there and like, let's say I want like pop, and I just want pop, and I know I'm going to drink pop for the rest of the night, and I'm just too lazy to get up. I will actually take these and fill them with like 2 cans of pop, because I'm just too lazy to get up. But anyways, the cocktail. We're starting with the ice, the shaker full of ice.
I'm gonna work out with
You're gonna work out with this? They're not that heavy. She's just being very dramatic.
Yes.
So, okay. So we got that. And then we're gonna start with apple liqueur, which is actually for a sourpuss. In other places, they call it apple puckers, which is
the apple pucker runs or whatever. Yes. I was very entertaining. I was entertaining myself last week with that word.
And then triple sec.
So apple pucker is really just sourpuss.
Apple pucker is a brand.
It's also not much better.
No. But it's a brand of sour apple liqueur, which is what
the things you learn on the show.
And then just like Midori is a brand for melon liqueur.
Oh, okay.
So we're doing melon liqueur instead of Midori because we don't really care the brand. And then vodka, which we do care about the brand because it is locally sourced.
It is local, yes. Pork. It's out of Banff. So really cool. Support local.
Oh, wrong one. Okay. And then now it's all in our shaker, and we're gonna shake it.
One day I just not open things. I can stick it here.
And then we are going to drain all of it into our big, huge fish bowl of a glass.
Come on, use mine is so much bigger.
Just wait. Oh. And then you need to top it up with your pineapple juice. Pineapple juice.
Good thing I'm not wearing white.
And topping it up with Sprite. Sprite, 7-Up, whatever. It doesn't matter. Don't care that much. And then you throw in your maraschino cherries.
Okay.
To make it look more spooky.
Oh, okay. That's why it looks like eyeballs.
Exactly. And you top it with.
I need one. Yeah.
Fair. Okay. And if you're in a smaller glass, you could probably only do 1. Yeah. But we have 2 because I wanted massive, giant drink.
I'm gonna mix mine. Yeah.
See, there you go. Good and evil.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers. I'm gonna use my straw.
Which one did I get?
Evil. This is a good punch cocktail.
Well, we literally drinking out of a punch bowl right now.
These are not punch bowls.
Yeah, I would serving it with ice. I put a little bit of ice in mine.
Oh, hang on 1 second. Yeah, okay. I'm just paranoid about. We were too quiet there for a second.
Oh.
Super paranoid about not having sound like we did last week.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my silent film that I made last week out of our show because we had no sound.
That's right. But we had a lot of really amazing things that we said on there, and it's so sad that
Robin was on fire. She was doing jokes and great ideas.
And they were funny jokes.
Yes, she was actually
All right. But now we're going to talk about whose side is the agent on in the transaction. So the first thing you have to understand is An agent has, by law, 6 fiduciary obligations: obedience, loyalty, reasonable care and skill, full disclosure, full accounting, and confidentiality. Now, that is only owed to whatever client it is if you're only representing one person in the transaction. So if the buyer or if the agent is representing the seller, he's only owed those to that person, to that seller. So that means loyalty, their interests come above all else, including your own. Confidentiality, they keep all your secrets. Full disclosure, they tell you everyone else's secrets. Obedience, meaning they follow your lawful instructions pertaining to the transaction, meaning the agent follows your lawful instructions. Reasonable care and skill, you know how to do your job. Full accounting, which means if you give your agent something and you ask for it back, they're obligated to give it back to you. And I feel like I'm missing something. Loyalty, reasonable care and skill, full disclosure, full accounting, obedience, confidentiality. Yeah, I got them all. Okay. And the one thing to know about these is what's so easy and great about our 6 fiduciary obligations is there is an acronym that they all make, and it's called OLD-CAR. Obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, reasonable care and skill.
Okay,
It's that easy to remember.
There you go. You should have started with the old car, and then we would be like,
yeah.
Yes, and again, if the agent happened to have a listing that the buyer wants to buy and they're working with the buyer, there's also a ways of dealing it. There is what I was gonna say.
Transaction brokerage.
That's a big word. Was not a fan.
Well, the legal term is transaction brokerage. We have a hashtag for it, dual agency.
Yeah, and the agent may actually also pick who they're gonna represent. Usually, where this says the first relationship was established, whoever was the first client, then the agent may take that side and have other client to be represented by a broker, for example, or a team member, just to have a little bit of that separation.
And something to know about agency is agency for an agent is till death do us part. So if I represented you 20 years ago and now we're in a position where you don't want us to represent both sides, I have to stick with a relationship that started first, which would be the one that was started 20 years ago. Yeah. So it's till death do us part. So when we have keeping your confidence, we keep your confidence forever. It's not just for the transaction. It's forever. That is till death do us part. Now, obviously, when we have transaction brokers and we represent both sides, we can't be loyal to 2 masters with opposing interests. We can't keep confidence while fully disclosing to 2 masters with opposing interests at the same time. So those 3 go away. But let's start with the most common scenario, which is you just have one agent or no agent. And we'll talk about like when you walk into an open house. Open houses, I know I do and I know you do. We coach our clients about open houses that they're not as friendly as they seem. When you walk into an open house, if the listing agent is the one sitting in the open house, he is only there to represent the seller of the property and nothing
technically
else.
Their goal is to sell the property to you. So they will be collecting information to qualify you if you are the buyer for this property or not. And then if you come back and say, hey, yes, I want to put an offer on this property, even if you come back with your own agent later, they will gonna have all this extra information they collected by qualifying you as a buyer, which they will disclose to the seller.
Absolutely. So always make sure when you're in that open house to ask the agent, do you represent the seller? Who are you representing right now? To make sure, because the last thing you want to do is go sit down. Let's say you're in a lawsuit. Don't go sit down with the opposing lawyer and have coffee, because that's kind of what you do in an open house, because it's never going to be to your best interest. If they're collecting information, they're doing their job. It's not against you. They're actually doing their job, which is to collect as much information to the benefit of the seller of that home. That is what their job is to do. And it's nothing against you, but they have to do their job.
Yeah, and sometimes, if you go to an open house and it's not a listing agent, that could be anybody from that agent's brokerage because they ask somebody to sit the open house. So technically, that agent has no obligations to the seller because the contract is not signed, unless there's a common law of brokerages.
Unless it's a common law.
Yeah. But again, most like majority ones in Calgary anyway, they are designated brokerages, which means they only the one agent can represent.
Well, the designated agents can represent,
Then
because that's the
yes,
other thing to
that's
know
what.
too,
Yeah,
is like when you're on a team. So that's why it's good when you walk into an open house, ask them, who do you represent in this open house? Because if they're on a team, there may be all those
like
people on the
us.
team, yeah, that represents that seller, or they may just be someone else who's not representing the seller, who's not assigned in designated agency from that
Yeah,
brokerage to represent the seller, which means they can act on your behalf and they can be to your favor. So
yeah.
asking the question, who do you represent in an open house, is never bad. And if any agent gets offended by it, they're a bad agent. I'm sorry, because that's a very fair and valid and intelligent question to ask.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, like, let's say it's Robin's listing and I'm doing open house. People come and say, like, we have this all the time. People come, like, I want to do a purchase agreement. And then the first thing I tell them how it's going to work out, like how we represent, how information gets shared, what stays confidential, what doesn't. Then, of course, we had to sign certain documents in order
Yeah.
for them to agree to participate in this particular process, and only then we write an offer or purchase to offer. We never write purchase to offer and then like, oh, by the way, this is what we
Yeah,
do.
you
If
always
you in
know.
that position, that was done wrong.
Now, the other thing to know too is if you're calling realtors on realtor.ca, that realtor that you're calling is always representing the seller. So when you're talking to realtors on realtor.ca, because you're calling them listings and all that kind of stuff, 100% they're representing the seller. So everything that you're saying to them on the phone is now open for the seller to know, because their obligations are to the seller of that property. If you meet a realtor and they show you listings that are not theirs, that they are not a part of, then they would be representing you. But the one thing to know that's important, and I know a lot of people kind of get a little bit antsy about this, is in 2006, the legislation of, or I guess it was the rules actually were changed
Mm-hmm.
for the realtors, and we're now obligated to have signed relationship agreements with our clients, which means it's our obligation to make you sign a document. But it's important to know as a buyer is that you have three types of relationships you can have with us. You can have what I call as a real estate acquaintance, which is consumer relationship guides, which means our consumer relationship, which means that we have no obligation of the six fiduciary obligations to you. We're just going to be there to basically provide you honest and truthful information. Then we have exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, which I call real estate marriage, where you can't see other realtors and we can't represent other buyers that came after you. And at the same time as we also have a non-exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, which is like real estate dating. You can see other realtors, we can prioritize other
Mm-hmm.
clients, and that's how it works. So understand that you have three ways that you can have that relationship, and the realtor should explain all three to you.
That's right. And one thing I was gonna say, that's my biggest kind of complaint, I think, this year, or maybe even the last couple of years, because buyers would call on the sign and they say, "Oh, I don't have a realtor," because maybe their realtor's on holidays, but they're trying to get in. And then it finds out that when they decide to buy something, they do have a realtor, and it becomes a big problem because if you have nothing signed, you may be having an obligation to pay the realtor that showed the property to you, not the realtor you start working with. If you have, for
No, if
example,
you have something signed, not nothing signed. If you have something
yes,
signed.
but it's you have to remember, like, if you kind of got yourself in situations, you can't put yourself in a thing like non-exclusive agreement and say, I only represent by this realtor in this particular case too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
In the
if
exclusive contracts.
because sometimes you do meet different realtors
Yeah.
and you have a connection. It's like, I really like this realtor. I'm gonna work with them on this particular property. But then your other realtor says, "Oh, you've been working with me for 3 months,"
Yeah.
right? So you have to be very careful. Don't lie. Basically, that's what I'm saying. You are, giving information to the realtors that not representing you and kind of giving us ammunition to acting, against you if you decide to go with a different realtor.
Yeah. But also
So,
too is if you do sign those contracts with agents, be clear which one you're signing, be clear what your
hmm
obligations are, And you don't want to find out that you're going to have to pay some realtor if you get another realtor to represent you in buying the house. Now,
Yes.
also too, is if you're in those kind of obligations, in those kind of contracts, there are clauses in those contracts where you can terminate those contracts. One is mutual agreement. If you can get the
I
other
like to
party,
call it change representative.
okay, we'll call it change
Termination
representative.
sounds
But
really
you
ugly.
can get documents signed, and if you want out of your contract, you have to remember the brokerage owns the contract, not the agent. So you can go to the brokerage and you can say, look, I'd like to get out of this contract for whatever reason that is,
Right.
and you can ask them to change your representative within the brokerage, or you can ask them to terminate the contract unconditionally, and then you can move on to anyone else that you so choose. Now, the other thing to know is there's something called implied agency. So implied
Yes.
agency is it is exactly what it sounds like. So agency
It's
has
like
to
a
be,
verbal contract,
it
kind of.
is, but you've got to be really, really careful. Agents have to be careful not to get into implied agency, and you have to be careful that you don't get into a relationship of implied agency. So what that means is if you start asking a realtor advice and there's no signed document, and the realtor starts giving you back that advice, that now can become implied agency. So it's implied by action, not by contract.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind when you're doing things. If you're going to start asking a realtor advice and they actually respond and give you that advice, then as soon as they start advising, so advising is much different than talking in general terms. Advising is when, what do you think I should do? Things like that. That's advising. General terms would be like, yes, we have 3 different types of buyer agreements. That's general.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the market's doing? Here's how the market's doing. That's general.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that I'll be able to get pre-qualified? Well, based on all of the information you gave me, yes, that's advising. So keep in mind that there's a difference to get that implied agency and how it starts, but be very careful before you getting into the implied agency. Although for you, the implied agency gives no obligations by you with implied agency, but it does for that agent.
Mm-hmm.
So only ask for advice from the person you actually want to represent you, because otherwise it gets really difficult and you can get some pretty muddy waters. And I always tell people the only surprises I like are diamonds. So let's just stick with diamonds.
Yes, big ones.
Big ones.
Yeah.
Bigger the better. Please send me diamonds. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I think with the implied agency also is be respectful of other people's time. And I think a lot of it usually happens on the buyer side. I have to
Usually.
say, you know, um, you it feels like when you start if it starts like you're feeling like you're working together, that's definitely more like an implied agency. And then if you decide and go away and work with a different realtor because you already have a signed contract, for example, then you took the time away from the realtor who thought they're working for you. Just I don't know, it's my like ethical like
I would agree, but a good
yeah,
realtor would know that they're working for you because they would have got the contract signed.
that's true.
Right? If
Yeah.
they're good and they're professional, they're going to make sure that they're getting the contract side to clarify the
Yeah.
relationship, not so that there's an implied,
Yeah.
relationship, but that there's a clear, defined
I
relationship.
might have applied for one day. I yes.
I call it the courting phase.
It's
When
it's
we're courting.
yeah, it's like it's a very short term relationship.
Exactly. There's a
Yeah.
short courting phase, which is that, and then there's dating and marriage, and you just decide which way you want to go.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
But anyways, more importantly, we are at the end of the month. This is the last one of the month.
It
Next month is
is.
November.
Yes, it is. So fun
So,
part. We give
fun
it away.
part.
Can you want to put up a picture first? Yeah. So we're giving away a super manly drink, not drink, whiskey decanter set, and it's because next month is Movember.
Manly month.
Yes, manly month. So it's what I know maybe not everybody. You know what? I wonder if you can put like wine into it and like dispense wine.
Oh my god, that would be so cool. Be like the toughest wine ever.
I mean, it says whiskey, but I think you can put anything really into it. But if it comes in a really cool box, it's a pretty set. And if you guys win and you don't know what to do with it, it makes a great gift for somebody for Christmas or birthday special.
You know what else makes a great gift? Our
Okay,
cocktail
so
conversation
yes, our
journal.
conversation journal, guys. You can buy it on Amazon. If you go into Robin Moser and Associates, our fan
Facebook page.
Facebook page, it's pinned right on top. You can go to the link, and I think what is it, $20?
15.
Oh, 15. Oh my God, it's
15
like on sale.
bucks. And it is
So
such a cool little book. And honestly, it was funny because we were at the Women's Expo and I was shocked how jazzed people were about it.
yeah, it's basically every cocktail we're making this season is in this journal, topics, including our topics.
And then you have notes
Which
for
way?
the cocktail
Yes.
and notes for the conversation.
That's right. And you guys can follow along, or you can kind of plan it in advance. You say like, oh, I'm gonna have a party on this day. Let's see what spicy club. That sounds really good. What the Tipsy Realtors are making, and it just becomes a very conversation piece altogether,
Absolutely.
right? So it's on Amazon. Get it for great stocking stuffing.
All right.
Is it you?
Oh. Next
Oh, what are you doing?
week, we're doing the prickly pear Negroni, which I'm super
Ooh,
jazzed about.
Negroni, yes.
And we're talking about little prick maintenance items that need to be fixed prior to selling your home. So if you're looking at putting your house up for sale, this is the one that you need to watch.
Hopefully it's for like a handyman special.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
of course, as always, if you have anyone looking at buying or selling real estate, please feel free to call or send them our way, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, anyone like that.
I want to pitch something. Can I take quickly pitch? So I believe it's next week. We plan to do a market update. For
Oh yeah, on the
yes,
video.
on our video, we're doing a market update because the market has been changing. It's kind of not in a bad way, in a good way. It's balanced.
We should do the market update with popcorn.
Oh my God, we totally gotta do it with shuffle popcorn. It's on. But we will put out a live video. But because market has been changing, we get a lot of questions, and it's not bad. We're just going into balanced market. We're gonna go through the details. But if you guys thinking like, what does it mean to me? Like market change for selling or buying, contact us, and we'll sit down with you one on one and make you a plan.
Okay, but also too is if you like or love our
Yes.
show,
To win the prize, you love, like, tag your friends, show your support through any social media platforms you see. So Facebook Live, obviously, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. And every time you like and love our show or tag your friends, your name will be entered into the draw that many times.
absolutely. So you got 1 week left. Well,
Yes.
technically you have. Well, yeah, you have 1 week left. So
Yeah.
like, love, share everything.
I put names next Wednesday morning.
Exactly,
Into
and you're
a
gonna.
wheel of fortune.
That's right, for your whiskey gun decanter.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you get to see next week what we're giving away for November.
Ooh, I don't even know. It's gonna be a surprise.
So have a great week. We'll talk to you guys later.